Hit record. And again, gentlemen, Dindigain, pass the mic to you and Miigwech for joining in.
Bonjour. Miigwech Gikinoo'amaagewin. Kalvin, Hartwig, Indigenous, Gikinoo'amaagewin, Anishinaabemowin, Mokwa-Ndodem, Weninang, Anishinaabemowin, Gikinoo'amaagewin, Weninang, Gaa-Miskwaabikaang, Indigenous, Nungum. So, greetings everyone. My English name is Kalvin. My real name is Miigwech, and I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Chippewa, Bear Clan, and I'm serving Red Cliff right now as the Anishinaabe language culture coordinator. And here's my supervisor, Marvin.
Oh, bonjour. Bonjour, Gikinoo'amaagewin, Gikinoo'amaagewin, Gikinoo'amaagewin. Gikinoo'amaagewin, Dudin, Gaa-Miskwaabikaang, Gikinoo'amaagewin, 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 Anoki Sizabakwad my Zaganashi, that's how we say we're going to talk English now. We just greeted ourselves in our indigenous language, which is Anishinaabe language. And my Shinabe name, Shingwe. It was told it's like that sound that comes out of a thunderbird. That sound is what I've been told when I got my name. My clan is sturgeon. It came to me, so I mean like an old time sturgeon. Some days I feel like an old time sturgeon. Where I'm from, where we live, is Gaa-Miskwaabikaang. Red Cliff, located on the northern, well, if you want to say it, the northernmost tip of Wisconsin, or the southernmost tip of Lake Superior. However you want to say that. Red Cliff is my home. It's where I live. I consider it a home. I don't consider it as much like a reservation, even though it is Red Cliff Band, Lake Superior, Chippewas. Miskwaabikaang is an old word, and throughout your learning, you're going to see a bunch of different words. So if you pull a map out, for example, of Wisconsin, there may be a bunch of indigenous words on that map, and usually it describes something in that place. Gaa-Miskwaabikaang is a place, plenty of red rocks. Miskwa is red. Bikaang is like a rock, or like something. Abik is like a rock. So, I mean, you kind of look around, say if you're here now and you look around outside, all I see is a bunch of trees. But to really see what that word means, you got to go out either in a canoe or a boat, or you got to be on the lake, especially in the morning when the sun comes up. If you're out on the lake in your canoe and you look back at Red Cliff, it'll glow. It'll just glow with that abundance of red rock. So that's kind of how we got our name. So we're going to spend an hour here with everyone, talking about our language, talking about maybe a little bit history of our language. We're going to give a hour-long presentation. Kalvin was so kind to put some slides together for us that we're going to go through. And this is part of our presentation. We just did a presentation up in Sault Ste. Marie. That's where Kalvin's from. They had a language conference, there. There's about 1,000 in attendance, and I don't know, they kind of picked us to do a presentation. So me and Kalvin did, and others along with our programming here, did a presentation there at this conference. But our purpose here today certainly is to talk about language, and we'll talk about maybe language and education, some of the work that we're doing, like that meeting we had today and what we're trying to do. So, but to give a little background, you go all around the Great Lakes. If you traveled all around the Great Lakes, you would find 150, I think right now it's 156 communities, villages, reserves, reservations that are Ojibwe. All around the Great Lake. That does not include some of our language brothers, the Odawa, the Budawatami, the Potawatomi, the Odawa, the Ojibwe, Algonquin, Maniwaki. You'll find them in Aniwaki, Quebec. So generally, if and the Cree. The Cree up north.
In the Great Lakes Métis.
Right. The Cree up north, so, if you wanted to put everybody in as Anishinaabe, that's the Anishinaabe. And you narrow it down to Chippewa, 153, 156 villages. And I mean, we didn't put the borders there. Wisconsin, the Canadian border, we still consider that part of our name. In fact, it's in the North American continent, we're one of the largest indigenous group in the continent, even larger than Navajos, if you consider everybody around the Great Lakes. But our history with our language, and we're going to go through a little bit of that. Our history of our language, and I'll probably keep referencing it. But maybe we should introduce, I'm sorry, Calvin, we should probably introduce everybody else on here that they're looking at. Why don't you go ahead?
Of course. So, Jingwe Benes, Marvin, and you now know me, Miskwaabikaang, Kalvin. So we also have Jared. Hey, Jared's been working with Earth Partnership for a while, and he's the Red Cliff Education Director. And then we have our assistant Defoe, Gikinoo'amaagewin. Edwina, she's out there boiling sap right now as we speak, making us some maple syrup, maple sugar. So we're taking a break to come and talk with you guys right now, eh?
Yeah. Well, kind of like a needed break though, Kalvin. I mean, we've been sitting out there 78 degrees out there boiling sap. I mean, in our short sleeve shirts, we haven't been able to sit out there all winter long. But we're boiling sap. We're boiling sap today. To be honest with you, it's been very. I didn't expect not to get as little as we did. It's climate change. I tell you right now is alive and well here in Red Cliff and our sugar bushes. This is our first time boiling. It's warm, and you need cold, freezing. And then warm weather, they say usually up to 40 degrees, not 78 degrees.
Yeah.
40 degrees, and it's really causing havoc on our sugar bushes. So anyway, Kalvin, go ahead. What to expect?
So what else you can expect in our presentation today? Hey, we offered you a background of Red Cliff. We can tell you a little bit more about where we're at right now. A quick look at Red Cliff policies and some of the actions that we're doing here to revitalize Anishinaabemowin, including an introduction to our 5-year plan. Hey, then we'll jump into the 5-year plan, some of the challenges, successes. If we have time, if some of you are, leading successful language programs at some tribes, I would be happy to hear from you about what we can learn. And of course, some time for questions, eh?
Yeah. And just to note that picture, we're having a conversation today about, I guess, our curriculum. I don't know how else to put it. Today we're doing sapping, the sugar bush. Tomorrow, guess what we'll be doing coming up when the lakes warm up and the ice, we're going to be fishing. We'll be fishing. After that, we're probably going to start collecting some fiddleheads. Fiddleheads come out and getting ready and starting, or wild onions. A lot of people like to get wild onions. After that, pretty soon the berries are going to come out. After that, until the fall time, we're going to go ricing. But what I'm saying is in our curriculum or in curriculum in the schools, we like to follow the seasons. We kind of like to follow the seasons. And when we had the sugar bush, Kalvin put together in our language a lot of little videos of our of Ojibwe language that is utilized here. And you just got done with that. So part of that certainly language curriculum in the schools and even in our community. To be honest with you, we don't have that much. If you're going to teach language in the classroom on science, is there a book?
Not really.
A book
not that I know of.
that shows that. So we're beginning to have efforts on pulling some of that together. But I see Kalvin has on the PowerPoint. You can see the Great Lakes, what I just talked about. All around the Great Lakes is what I'm talking about, where the Chippewa villages are. And
yeah, and just like Marvin was saying, we were here before the borders, before the state borders, before the country borders. But a lot of folks are still catching up, right? And so in this map, you'll see some of our reservations, our traditional villages to the south of that medicine line, to the south of that U.S.-Canadian border. But the folks who originally drew this map didn't show the reserves north of the border. So, an imperfect map, but this is the best we had in the moment. So Marvin mentioned the Sault Ste. Marie, where I'm from, that's that purple circle, and where we're at right now is that red circle, hey?
So throughout history, history certainly hasn't been too kind to Indigenous people. And history hasn't been too kind for us in retaining our language. That one picture to the left there is a depiction of, what does it say on the petition of Chippewa chiefs traveling to Washington, D.C. And then there's another picture there, that illustration of the Chippewa delegation going to Washington, D.C. So, history really hasn't been too kind to us, where during this time, 158 years ago, I don't know if my math is right, but I'm probably pretty close, the President of the United States had an executive order to remove all Indigenous people east of the Mississippi west. And that included us. You might have heard of the Trail of Tears. That's the kind of the famous one, Trail of Tears. I opened up a National Geographic one, or I see it on the cover, National Geographic one time. Here, there's a wigwam on there. They had a wigwam. I said, oh, cool. They're going to talk about Chippewas now. So I like National Geographic. So I open it up. Here that wigwam was in Mexico. It was way down in Mexico. It was the Kickapoo people who were during this time who started walking out west, and they said, "The heck, we're keeping right on going, man," and they ended up right in Mexico. In fact, I had a friend of mine, Jim Thunder, Jim Thunder, who was a Potawatomi, Budawatomi, we say, and those were some of his relatives, and he went there. He went there about 12 years ago. He went there, and guess what? They could understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
But to make a long story really short here, because we only have a short time, our chiefs in our area during that time are trying to remove our people from this land. They went to Sandy Lake, Minnesota. They said, "Come over here and get your provisions." A lot of our people went. It was in the winter time, and they didn't have the provisions. So a lot of our people said, "The heck with this," and they come back home, but a lot of them died. So our chief said, "No, that's it. Go. We're not moving. This is our home." And they went to Washington, D.C. to make an agreement with the president. I think it was Taylor, or Fillmore, excuse me.
Mm.
One of them. We should put that on there. But anyway, they made an agreement. They made a treaty with the United States, and that's the 54 treaty, which established our homes, which established Red Cliff, Bad River, Lac du Flambeau, Waskaganiang, Bad River? Bad River, which established, and there were some tribes in Minnesota, Grand Portage, Boise Fort, Fond du Lac, and even in Michigan, even established some tribes at that time. But we're that close. We're that close to going to war or having peace. So the agreement was to have peace, and that's where we are today.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of today, Red Cliff, we have a lot of language initiatives right now, and I want to know the context. We don't have any fluent speakers from Red Cliff anymore. The last one passed away, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
About 20 years ago. And a lot of communities are losing their last fluent speakers. My community in Sault Ste. Marie, as far as I know, lost our last community member last year. So this side of the border, we have still 50 native level fluent speakers left. Almost all of them are elderly in their mid-70s up to 90s. So that's where we're at right now. But we do have a lot of knowledge keepers, including here at Red Cliff, including here Frank and Carolyn. So I wanted to lift them up there.
So let me emphasize that again. Kalvin made a point, and I think it's a very crucial point to our presentation here today. And the history, what we're trying to do is undo what was done to us. Many of our people were put in boarding schools. They're trying to take the Indian out of us, the way they put it. Take the Indian out of us. No, you don't need that language. I know some elders who, when they were in school or in boarding school, they got their fingers slapped, finger slapper speaking our language. So Kalvin mentioned 50 in the United States Chippewa fluent language speakers. 10 years ago, we had here in the stateside, we had over 500. We've had over 500. Today, 2023, we got 50. We got 50 fluent language speakers have left. So I talked to a lot of the people that work in the language, and I thought, man, you know what? We're in a crisis. So, we're at the point we're in the crisis, and they corrected me. They said, no, we're not in a crisis. We're on life support. We're on life support capturing our language. And that's where we're at now before our language is lost, before our identity is lost. before who we are as Anishinaabe is gone and lost. So some of the efforts that we want to talk to you about here is the 5-year language plan. A 5-year language plan is what we decide, because what we figured out, and Kalvin's going to go through it a little more. But what we figured out, yes, we have language activities. Yes, we put little road signs up with the language. Yes, we have put by the bathrooms Quain and any, you know. But what we're saying is whatever we do, and whatever we could teach, that it leads towards fluency. That it's going to lead towards fluency. So we can have more fluent speakers in our community, in the Red Cliff community. And Kalvin's right. Our last fluent speaker, Dee Bainbridge, was Dolores Bainbridge. She taught in the public school in Bayfield. Good friend of mine. In fact, I even studied under Dee. Very good storyteller. You know, could tell stories left and right. You know, maybe that's where I get my story, some of my stories. I'm not sure, but we just want to let you know where we're coming from. We're coming from a place where we're putting steps in motion to undo some of the historical trauma that was done to our people. To undo that. So we came together of a plan, a plan here in Red Cliff, a plan where, okay, let's see what we can do then. Let's see what we can do in all aspects. Systematic plan is kind of what this is, in all aspects, in all facets of our community, including the Bayfield Public School. Including, we just had a meeting today. I whispered to Cal, we had a meeting with Head Start. You know, Head Start today. Is it possible? Because they in Head Start they go from 6 months old to 5 years old. And we had I said, can you imagine if we gave them kids an opportunity in learning them language from 0 to 5 years old? Holy crap, them buggers would probably be fluent by the time they're 5 years old, right? I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? You know, that would be so cool. But I like to talk, and sometimes I talk too much about one slide, and we got several slides too. So I'm going to try to be quiet a little bit and let Kalvin continue on with the slideshow.
So I hope you guys are hearing in Marvin and me our strong passion, hey, to support our traditional Anishinaabe language, our traditional Anishinaabe values, because we want to keep our identity going on for many, many more generations, eh? And it's not just individuals that are supportive, it's leadership too, right? You can see that in our mission statement at Red Cliff. You can see that in the official language of Red Cliff. You can see that in the policies that we're doing, supported by many, right? So one of our flagship programs here at Red Cliff is a partnership with Bad River, and we have about 10 language trainees between us both. Their full-time job is to learn Anishinaabemowin and learn how to teach. Very, very few tribes are doing that, and our language is so beautiful and so complex. You really do need to study it full-time over a few years if you want to even become proficient, let alone fluent. So it's really, really crucial, this program that we have, because we're going to have a need for teachers, we have a need for speakers, and that's going to help us get us there. We have the language culture coordinator at Red Cliff, that's me, and I do a lot of things, including coordinate the liaisons. So every tribal department across the tribe, human resources, the casino, the health center, every one of them have a liaison or 2 liaisons, and every week we talk about how do we bring more language to Red Cliff? How do we bring more language, culture, professional development to our employees to help bring those traditional Anishinaabe values back into a daily practice, more into an everyday thing? To help do that, we're also updating our orientation process at Red Cliff, our employee handbook to be more in line with traditional Anishinaabe values, allow for workers to have language, culture, professional development on their work time. We have a lot of events, of course. We have our language tables, we have our language classes every Monday morning. We have available for our employees and some of our community members to come and learn Anishinaabemowin based on our Rosetta Stone Ojibwe app. Speaking of the Rosetta Stone Ojibwe app, we bought it for over 360 Red Cliff employees and community members. That's over 360 folks who can be on their phone instead of flipping through Facebook or Tinder or whatever. They could be learning Ojibwe. Defoe, the office that we're working for, is very supportive of language and even supports our own employees to take university classes to learn Ojibwe.
And also, Kalvin, recently on there, because we have to update, we have an agreement. We have an agreement now with Earth Partnership. You know, Earth Partner through Jared over at the education, working with I don't know if Alex is on here, but we believe in collaboration. If we're gonna save our language, and if we're gonna try to help perpetuate that's gonna lead towards fluency, we need to work together. We need to collaborate and work together. So that's what some of this initiatives that Kalvin is going to present to you is efforts of working together with other divisions within Red Cliff, and also more recent, like I said, working with the Earth Partnership, which I see Cheryl on here. Would you, Cheryl? Waving. So thank you, Cheryl, for making this happen for us, keeping our language alive. Your effort is very welcome and very thankful. Chimigwits to you for working with us.
And then, of course, for our language program, we have the 5-year plan, and this was approved, this was ratified by the council. So this is official policy. And, you know, I mentioned that language trainee program. We're also building an immersion school at the local Bayfield school. These are going to bring about proficient, hopefully fluent speakers, but those are long-term projects. Those are multiple years. And so in the meantime, what do we do for the rest of the community? That's what this 5-year plan is stemming from, to meet that need and to build the foundation amongst the rest of the community and the interests to have their own fluency building journey, to put their kids into the immersion school, these sorts of things. We did you want to talk about this for a minute? So it's not just the departments at the tribe, though that's a really important aspect. It's also other stakeholders in the community, reaching out to our elders in the community who aren't working for Red Cliff, working with the Bayfield schools, keeping families in mind. You've got the library. So all of these are included in our 5-year plan. We talked about some of our current efforts. Here's a little bit more, and we're very thankful for the Mille Lacs Band, a separate tribe of Ojibwe, who put a lot of money and resources into building the Rosetta Stone language app, which you can put on your smartphone or your laptop. That's a wonderful tool that we're using right now. And by the way, you see the green check marks. These are things that are done or are we're in the throes of right now. So a big part of the 5-year plan, of course, is to build awareness and value of the language. A lot of people, they don't know what they don't know. And so a big part of this 5-year plan is showing folks, hey, this is how beautiful our language is. These are the incredible reasons to be learning it, to help inspire them to take on that journey. You know, Marvin mentioned before the schools. So a lot of people at the time learned to not speak our language and didn't want to share it with their children to help protect them. And so that sort of passed down, and so now we're trying to reverse that process.
Oh,
Of course, Anishinaabe revitalizing it is a symbol of our sovereignty for many reasons, including maintaining our identity as Ojibwe people. This is a very crucial part of that, a part of our sovereignty is to maintain our language. The Tribal Council has been doing a lot to help support. On a tribal level, they've conducted a survey to help better understand our needs regarding language, which helped lead to changing or making Ojibwe the official language of the tribe. We're beginning to write out more policies. You have the Chippewa Federation, a group of tribes in the area, Anishinaabe tribes in the area, and their leaders, they meet up every month, eh? And so we put on there a standing item, Anishinaabemowan, to keep that as a main focus for our leadership. We're trying to make it easier and more accessible for our tribal staff to be learning Anishinaabemowan, and we're also trying to make it more visible to help normalize. Hey, Ojibwe is not some exotic thing, some rare thing. No, it can be an everyday part of our lives. There are a lot of studies out there that have suggested exactly what we have already known, okay? That folks who learn Anishinaabemowan, Anishinaabe people, Anishinaabe youth, and learning our values, it leads to more health, more wellness, healthier decisions. And so that's a part of our mentality here is how do we not only make Anishinaabemowan an everyday thing, but to help our people become healthier. Treating natural resources is one of our departments at the tribe that have a lot of face-to-face relationships with our community. And when I say our community, not just Red Cliff tribal members, not just people living in the reservation area, but of course our other relatives too, hey? Those fish, those trees, those rocks. And so we're teaching them about the important use of tobacco, our sacred medicine, hey? To teach them how to speak Ojibwe so that way they can interact with our other relatives so that they can understand each other. Some of our slides, you'll see that there aren't blue or green check marks yet, and that's okay. You know, we've had some struggles with some of our departments building in our language, but that's okay. If we have time, we can talk about some of the challenges,
but Kalvin, I do have to note, we had a lot of effort developing this plan. We had Sandy Goki was helping us, and we had an advisory group and the community going and pulling this all together, meeting upon meeting with the divisions, meeting with the school, with the various school education people, and we're all set to go. We had our tribe council, they approved it, and guess what happened? The goddamn COVID came.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and COVID came and really put a hamper on us for a couple of years to really begin implementing this. If COVID wasn't here, certainly, you see a lot more,
Absolutely.
a lot more check marks on there. But that's what Calvin indicated. We believe our language is alive. It's alive, and this clan that we talked about is alive. I mean, your classroom is alive. Your what you're teaching is alive. That's what we believe. We believe that. So it can be, since it's alive, we can look, no, this ain't quite working the way we thought. Let's change it. We're very adaptable. And we can adjust things there with that. So we've made some adjustments, and some of these initiatives are really springing forward. Really springing forward. I mean, we're having meetings with the Bayfield School, for an example, right now, and they're talking about implementing a kindergarten to first grade total language immersion in the classroom. So that's a direct result of this plan. We have some earmarks on there, and we try to follow that.
And I'd say, given the COVID pandemic, we're probably only entering year 2 of this 5-year plan. If it wasn't for that, we'd maybe be into year 3 or so. But we're just now starting year 2, given the setbacks. But like Marvin said, for what it's been, we have a lot of accomplishments already. Red Cliff has its own court. And it deals a lot with struggling families, with our youth, with wards of the court. And just recently, back in say December, the court hired its cultural consultant, and she's helped. That would be that Carolyn Gouget that we saw earlier in the slides, and she's helping bring those traditional Anishinaabe values into the courtroom and help with that decision making to make the best decisions for our children, hey, including bringing language into the system. Got us, Defoe.
That's a resolution on that. What is it? Declares Ojibwe first language here in Red Cliff. If you look very closely at the right, you see Marvin Defoe's name on there. Can't see it.
Yeah, I see it. Just right there. Yeah, you can't zoom in, but were you on council at that time, Marvin?
Yeah, I was on council at that time, and the reason why I bring that up is I believe you have to engage, whatever you do, you got to engage the decision makers into your effort, kind of like a buy-in. You got to help educate the decision makers in on what you're doing so that they support your efforts. I mean, just today now, in our meeting, we had Edie, who has an immersion up at Gaa-Miskwaabikaang immersion group in Duluth, Minnesota, and they're putting together a presentation to meet with their school board about it. So
again, reaching out to our partners in the region, not just staying in-house. Eh? We're building a lot of resources for our families. That's been one of my favorite projects recently is actually producing paper handouts or videos, audio, so that our families can learn Anishinaabemowin. Of course, we can't do this without intergenerational involvement, having our youth learn directly from our elders and our elders learning from our youth.
And we can't do that without an excavator.
So much easier with an excavator. Right there, we're harvesting a deer or processing a deer, eh? That one deer, folks from 5 different tribes benefit from, eh? Either from the meat or the hide, the bones. So one of the resources I've been producing has been in relation to an Ojibwe phrase of the week that all of our employees get to learn. So I find or produce a language video that helps with a pronunciation guidance on a given phrase. And our phrases, right, they also are in support of our traditional Anishinaabe values. So I don't know if you've heard of James Vukolich or Anton Troyer. Sometimes they'll use their videos and they'll go into depth on the etymology of the given word or phrase and reach to those traditional Anishinaabe values that came from our ancestors. More on our resources. Here's a language video that I helped produce alongside my colleagues here at Defoe and Bad River. I saw last year that in our sugar bushes around Red Cliff, many of our folks weren't speaking Ojibwe. Maybe some of our folks weren't using that tobacco and praying to our trees, to the spirits before doing their sugar bush. So I wanted to help bring that back to folks. And we produced a bunch of language videos that help support that. So folks can bring this into their sugar bush and bring Ojibwe back into the forest. We're training and teaching. We're building an immersion school, and we need teachers to fill it. Hey, so our language trainees are not just learning language, but also how to teach. And we're building out programming right now. How do we make more Head Start teachers? How do we make more kindergarten teachers? How can we build in those financial supports?
Oh yeah, just to emphasize that again, Calvin, and that was what we decided back before we kind of initiate. If we are going to grow with our language, we need teachers. You know, we need teachers in a educational setting, either in a public school educational setting or just in our community. We need language teachers and even qualified teachers, to teach language in a classroom. At a public school, you gotta have a teacher's license. Or to teach in a Head Start school, you gotta have an assistant in early childhood development. So we felt if we're gonna move forward, we need teachers, and that's why we began the program, a teacher training program. This is our second year into that. Calvin indicated partnering up with Bad River. And 40 hours a week, or probably more, 5 days a week, they're sitting down learning the ins and outs, the structure of our language. And they're on their way. And as a result of that, they'll be qualified to teach either in a public school or in a Head Start setting, or even in the community teaching a class in the language.
And just to give an example of how effective this language trainee program is, where people are learning full-time in a structured, intentional way. I was learning Ojibwe off and on back in Sault Ste. Marie maybe over a decade. And I came here with a certain degree of proficiency. And some of these language trainees started this program last year with less proficiency than me. And now they're more proficient than me.
Yeah.
So really beautiful stuff happening.
So it's working.
It's working.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
We have mentions here of education, but again, this is a living, breathing program, the 5-year plan, and we found that full immersion would be a better thing for us to invest our energy in, to build proficiency amongst our kids. And so we're switching away from some of our older 5-year plan ideas for education towards that full immersion.
Right, and this is an education presentation, and I believe some of the participants are involved in education, but my clan, Gikinoo'amaagewin Sturgeon, is known as philosophers and I'm an educator. I love teaching. I love trying to present a concept or an idea or how to do something or whatever. I love it. I love teaching. That's kind of a inherent trait of Sturgeon clan people. So it's kind of right in me. it's kind of right. It's kind of right in me. You know, it just so happens though I don't have a teaching degree. You know, but I have a clan degree.
Hmm.
You know, I have a clan degree, so there's a lot of very good resources out there. And we're not, you know, we're saying, yeah, here in Red Cup we want to do language immersion, but you know, if you don't have a fluent speaker throughout the different classrooms or what have, you know, throughout the state or the programs or agencies that you're all involved in, every little bit of our language is certainly helpful.
Mhm.
There's a lot of resources out there that you could utilize, utilize to either bring that into the educational type system, and that's just where we're at today. That's just where we're at, and that's why I asked Calvin: is there a textbook in algebra in our language? I don't. Is there?
I don't know.
I don't know it. Right. I
Yeah.
don't know either. But certainly we're on that path. Certainly on that path where we could lead towards that. In fact, we have a relationship with the Hawaiian people. You know, our tribe does. Some of our people went to Hawaii, and they're in the same boat as we're in today, trying to revitalize their language, and they did it. They have college classes spoken, taught in Hawaii.
All the way
Yeah.
up to their PhD level.
Really? All the way up to the PhD?
From before a kid was born all the way through PhD.
Right.
They have Hawaii programming.
Right. And there's another country too, New Zealand.
Maori. Yep.
Or the Maori. The Maori people, they just went all out with their language there. And I kind of heard it kind of started over to New Zealand with the secretary, somebody answering the phone. He's welcome in talking in our language. So she started talking in Maori in the language, and pretty soon everybody was picking up the phone. I don't know how to say hello in Maori.
Yeah.
But here, you know, that's one of our initiatives here. For an example, I thought it'd be cool. You answer the phone, say "Buju," maybe get on to Anishinaabe, and how are you doing? And when you say goodbye, say "Gikinoo'amaagewin." I'll see you later.
Red Cliff also has its own Head Start and pre-Head Start programming, and so we're building in immersion for that, bringing in more language. We mentioned about the Bayfield schools already. This is a public school in the region. 80% of the students there are tribal members. So we're bringing more media in Ojibwe to the community. That's been a fun project. A few of the sponsorships. And we're always looking for money, and we're grateful for our new partnership here with Earth Partnership. And we always need money. This language revitalization is extremely expensive. A few of our challenges and successes, including funding, including the COVID pandemic. But we're building some really good teams. We're building a lot of capacity. We're building awareness. We're getting people excited, and we're building proficiency. So I'd like to hear from you guys if any of you have been involved with the Anishinaabemowin revitalization or any language revitalization successfully. I'd like to hear any of your suggestions or questions. We want to hear those too. Thank you so much for listening.
Miigwech, gentlemen, good to hear you. Good to be together. Participants would like to invite you in to share suggestions, questions, as Kalvin had asked. So I'm inviting those in now. I'm inviting in questions and suggestions from our audience today.
We answered all the questions. Wow.
Oh, excuse me, Kalvin. Sorry about that. Randa Kashmir, Buju, welcoming you in with your question. Passing the mic to you.
Also, everyone, I had a quick question regarding the app that you guys were mentioning. So I did a quick iPhone app store search, and there's many Ojibwe language apps. So I'm wondering which one you might suggest.
Yeah, that's a great question. And bonjour to you too. So I'm not familiar with the wide variety of apps out there. I bet some are pretty successful. The one that we're most familiar with is Rosetta Stone Ojibwe. And it's built in a structured way, a scaffold way. So some apps out there might just be word list. I don't know. And you know as well as I do, if we study a word list, we can't go out and have a conversation in a grocery store just with that, right? So what Rosetta Stone does is help build scaffolding. It helps build up language skills so that way folks can start saying sentences, whole concepts, and it's done in a fun way with video, with audio. It's kind of like a game in a way. And for any tribe or school or community that wants to use Rosetta Stone Ojibwe for a group of people, there's even a curriculum designed. And we're fortunate enough to be consulting with the individual who designed that curriculum. And so our Monday morning language class for our community and employees is based on that curriculum. And it's very action-based curriculum, gets people up out of their chairs and playing games with each other, using the language, and actually being able to practice it. Hey, so I don't know about the other apps, but I would recommend Rosetta Stone Ojibwe. And if you Google it, you'll find how to buy it through the Mille Lacs. There's a nonprofit set up by the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. If you go to just rosettastone.com, you're not going to find Ojibwe there with French and Spanish and all the other languages. It's a little bit separate.
Great.
This is Janine. This is Janine McNulty. I'm from St. Croix, Chippewa, Indians of Wisconsin, and I work as the higher education coordinator in the education department. And we've been discussing this very thing. So this is really interesting to listen to, and I'm trying to. I see that it's recorded, so I'm wanting to share it with my my coworkers later on. But when you were talking about Rosetta Stone, I saw that too, that we do a lot of like, let's learn Ojibwe. So we have 20 people that gather and yep, I want to learn the language. And then in like a week, then 18 have dropped out. And then you have 2. Yeah. And then you end up getting something. And then we start over again at the beginning. And then the 2 don't have anything because we're going to focus on a brand new group. And so I found that happens so often that one of the things that we recently did is we got all of the 6 public schools of St. Croix to offer Rosetta Stone as a world language opportunity. And the tribal liaisons from each of the school districts are going to be the person in charge of the room, so that we don't have kids just kind of doing this by themselves. But it's going really well, and all the schools are on board. They're buying licenses, and I also saw that you bought licenses for your for the people at Red Cliff, and we were looking at that as well. And so I'm just glad that you said that, because I feel like it's a good, what you just said, it's a good foundation. You get your kind of the verbs and adverbs and all that kind of foundation grammar, and then from there, once you get people through that, then you can concentrate on speaking with speakers and togetherness. And so I guess that's kind of what we were looking at doing, but this is really great.
Oh, miigwech, Janine. And you bring up a good point, right? People will prioritize their time for their priorities, right? And so when we started off our language class, one of the very first lesson was on the importance of Ojibwe and why it's so amazing for us to learn it, to help inspire folks to keep going. And we've had a robust, maybe 50 or so students continue throughout these first month of classes, which I think is pretty strong. And yeah, so thank you so much.
And what I'm gonna say, Calvin, is as one of our challenges, and I mentioned that earlier about math, is there a math book in Ojibwe?
Mm.
You know, one of our challenges, finding adequate curriculum, a curriculum so that we could help follow that. And we found that Rosetta Stone, that's a curriculum. There's a lot of teachers' lessons in there, et cetera, et cetera. So Janine, I'm happy, tickled that you're doing the effort with the area school districts. I mean, the curriculum's right there. You know, you just follow it like a layer, like taking them steps, and it's very well put together with that. And I think we're going to see some successes, inspiring individuals in learning our language.
Oh, and I want to do another follow-up on that too. You know, some people are, you know, they're competing with all kinds of things, and they have to earn a living and raise their kids and put food on the table. And so if any of your tribes, any of your organizations, any of your schools are able to pay people to learn Anishinaabemowin as part of their work, or even as a full-time position learning our language, we need that. We need a lot more of that. So please consider that.
Anyone else? I think Rachel has a question.
Right on,
not-
Rachel.
Raquel.
Yeah, I just wanted to commend the Red Cliff Nation for all the progressive work and trying to hold on to the language. I'm been working on learning my language, which is Choctaw, for about 15 years, off and on over time, sometimes committing more or less time, usually less, and then just recently started really focusing on it. And so it's I don't know what the spark, well, I know what the spark was. I remember Migazi over at Lakota Ray was talking about how he learned language and carrying around a notebook and stuff, and I like him following that, so that's really cool. But one thing that we have is Canvas, and so it's like you can either print off the worksheets or you can do it online. So there's two ways to do it. I actually kind of like the Canvas. It's just I just finished up the unit, and so one thing they asked was like, why do you like this? And I'm like, because no matter where I'm at, if it's like I got 2 minutes, I can do the flashcards for the vocabulary, which has the pronunciation, and I can review lessons over and over again. So just one thing that I found helpful. And I'm going to look and see if my tribe has a Rosetta Stone. Problem is, I'm here in Wisconsin, not a whole lot of Choctaw speakers. So if I'm saying things wrong, I have nobody to be like, oh, I think you're supposed to say it that way.
Yeah, well, Big Rich. Thank you.
Mhm.
And wishing you all the best as you learn Choctaw. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, good to hear, Rach. Wendy, for your question, Miranda, Janine, Miigwech for weighing in. Rach, you too. It's good to hear. Again, good to be here together, learning about and celebrating Indigenous languages. And I echo Rach in honoring you all, Gaa-Miskwaabikaang, for carrying this forward. So I think I'll propose that we wrap up, if that's cool with our speakers today. We're at our time, and people are probably getting hungry and ready for their evening work and meals and such. So we can share the recording with this group, and so folks will have that as a reference. So that'll be our follow-up. And again, Miigwech to our host.
Jesse, you know I could keep talking. I mean, you kind of know that, but you know, thank you for inviting us. We didn't know kind of what to expect. I guess I know I didn't, but I know some of you was on there, and I'd like to thank who was ever online for being a participant in this, and you know, we need your help. And I think the thing is, and I'll say it again, teamwork, working together, collaborating. And I think if we put our minds together, we can see what we can do for our children without question. Putting our minds together, you know, we may be Shinabe, but we're a human race too. You know, we're a human race too, and there's some things that matter to us here, and language is one of the things that that matters. You know, we feel very strongly again. So I like to say Chimigwich to all the participants here. It's very appreciative, and you're very kind. You're very good listeners. I didn't hear a peep out of anyone when we were talking. So
okay, right on.
I'm only kidding. So Miigwech.
If you had time, it looks like we had one of our participants had one more question. Marvin and Kalvin. Tina, I see you. Tina, passing the mic to you.
Alrighty, thank Miigwech. So yeah, thanks again for this wonderful presentation. And one of the things that I had been talking with a coworker about, I believe she was an LCO, and so she speaks proficient Ojibwe, and I feel like I've never gotten to that level of getting past that, and part of it is obviously the obligation that you put into it. I did teach some of our grade school children for a few years, and we were so the question is moving forward, just a thought that I had with getting communities to work together, like so for instance, I'm from Waswaganing, and maybe sharing that knowledge in ways of I would love for in the future when my daughter's out of school to spend some time with people that are speaking, and whether it's a weekend so that you, and then full immersion so that you for people that are working full-time already. I'm just looking for other ways or avenues to really speak and challenge yourself to get to that next level. So just wondering, just putting it out there that that's something that I would love to do with other communities.
Tina, what's your last name again?
Handeland.
Oh, yeah. Well, get a hold of us, and maybe we can keep you up to date as we you know, build out our immersion school, build out our immersion at ECC. So we're gonna need more teachers, you know.
And we are going to have a Ojibwe language camp this summer. We're just beginning planning for that. So individuals, people are welcome to attend that, right?
Starts on July 4th through July, what, 7th, 8th?
4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, out at Raspberry Campground. All the food will be provided. And this year we kind of having a discussion about having maybe a track where you're going to have full fluency. You know, we don't know yet exactly how that's going to be, but a full fluency track where individuals, because when we're talking about language learning, we're all at different levels. There's different people at different levels of language learning from the beginning. You know, we'll get people out there who's never even heard the word bonjour, you know, and we have people out there who have been in the language for 20, 30 years. So we're trying to come up with a way where we can look at all aspects of it. So it's an opportunity for language learners to come out to Raspberry Camp and participate.
So it sounds like it's right after your POO, correct?
right after the power, yeah.
You got it.
All right. All right, Chimigwich.
Mhm. And
Okay.
before we end, if there's any more questions, I'd love to field them. But before we end, I'd like to translate what this says on the slide. But Jessica, you were going to say something.
No, I was just thinking, I was gonna say miigwech to Tina. Yes, back to you.
No. Well, there's so misa with or misa you. That's one way of saying that's it. That's we're done, we're over, it's it. That's it. Misa with apaja, very much. Kimigucha with agum. We thank you guys, Bizendaliak, for listening. Oh, misa with apaja kimigucha with agum Bizendaliak.
I hope you guys give us a good grade.
Good one.
Jesse, yeah, you can
Yeah.
give us our report card.
Okay.
See. All right, miigwech.
Okay, miigwech. That was fun. And miigwech again. We'll see you soon. Gigawabamin, gentlemen.
Aho.
Oh, Gigawobbleman and him. See you guys.